Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, as usual, a great show for you today. Look, I hope we are able to stay on. I hope that the lights don't go, but as you know, there's this Laura is in the Gulf, and Laura is the first band seems to have reached here in Houston, Texas. I'm about, I don't know, maybe 50 miles or so away from the closest shore. I believe I'm maybe a little, actually it's probably more like 35 miles if we take the inlet of Galveston Bay where it comes into to these areas, maybe a little closer to water. So if we somehow a thunderstorm hits something up, because I heard some thunder a few minutes ago, you know exactly why. But we are going to have a great show. Remember what I always ask my brothers and my sisters, please go ahead before you even start. Please go ahead and share the program. Let's make sure that people are able to get all the stuff that we're going to be talking about, because that is the only way it happens. So share, not only on Twitter, not only on Tumblr, on your Facebook page, on your Facebook wall, but that is how we get our message out. I didn't say my message. I said our message out, because we are all in this together. There is no I. What is that word that they say? There is no I in we, or there's no I in team. There's no I in together. It's never I. It's always us. It's always we. Those are the tenets that I believe in. Those are the tenets that we should work by. Those are the tenets that are in general anathema to quite a few politicians. Those are tenets that generally we definitely know is anathema to the president. So anyhow, what is the show going to be about today? But before I go, since we're still early on, welcome aboard Michael Rodnan. Welcome aboard Brige MCP. Love to have you guys here, VQ. Love to have you all here. You guys are wonderful. I don't know. I had to go through that entire national convention, Republican National Convention again. And you know what? It's an alternate state of reality that most of us in the know are discounting. I'm going to tell us that, we know it's false. Many people know that it's false, but I'm going to show you later on in this show what I call a confused Trump voter. What I call a confused Trump voter that is gettable. I don't believe we leave anything on the side, brothers and sisters. I'm going to be frank with you. We as progressives, those of us that are listening that are progressives, have a tendency to discount our fellow conservatives, our fellow all the others, because it is sometimes frustrating to deal with people listening to information we know is provably false, but to their sources of information is not, which is something we should understand. We have to do better. Do you know why they win? Let me tell you why they win. They win because they are willing to do whatever it takes to tell you whatever you need to know to give you a semblance of their reality. That is what they do. And we are too, in general, progressives are too generally, that won't work. That is so silly. We can't tell people that. We can't assume that. We have to humble ourselves to somewhat so that we can communicate. That is what I try to do. And I'm constantly hawking my book. I'll be honest with you. I constantly and will constantly try to get folks who are listening to get my book, because I talk a lot about that from a progressive point of view, holding respect for my fellow conservative brothers and sisters. Look, I must admit, sometimes I want to hold and shake them and, my God, why can't you get this? But again, I understand. And that's what I do in my book, and I have the link in the book. Please, if you have the wherewithal, please go to that link and get that book if you can. If It's very inexpensive. Both the print version and the online version is very inexpensive. And know that in purchasing that book, you are actually supporting politics done right and what we believe in doing. But I want to win from a progressive point of view. I want to win big from a progressive point of view. I want to bring in my conservative right-wing Trumpist brothers and sisters as well. Because my contention is that if we win and we are able to bring all those people in and push our policies, then they cannot have the theory of our policies being bad, but the reality of our policies being good. But you see, we don't even get a chance to put our policies out there because we don't win. We have to make the sacrifices necessary to win so that we can effect our policies, so that we can then put them out there and understand that people will then love it. That is what's very, very important. We can't, there are some people that will take our word at face value. Basic income definitely will work, and it doesn't create lazy people. Green New Deal can create a whole lot of jobs and make our lives better. We breathe better air and we get less sick and we have less costs of health. Medicare for all is real, and it makes sure that everybody is healthy. It creates an even playing field so that all of us, if we want to open our own companies, we can. We are not tethered. We are not enslaved to the corporation. All those things are true. But trying to explain it to them, they've learned we can't afford it. We can't afford that. So it's pie in the sky. They have learned to believe that. And because they have learned to believe that, our words ring hollow. But we can do better. We can coax them in. We can bring them in. We can get them on our side. And I know some people say, with some people it is completely impossible. There's a sect that is completely impossible because they are wrapping their well-being not only into economics but into some sort of a nativist thing, a superiority thing. There are enough people that have that in. There's a certain percentage that are going to be hard to get. They'll take everything progressives have to offer, but they will never say it in words. And that is what we fight for. But anyway, we want to go ahead and get the program started. That was my initial soliloquy. The initial soliloquy to try to kind of ask my brothers and sisters here, progressives and otherwise, let's win. That is the first thing we have to do. Many felt terrible. Oh, Biden won. He's no damn progressive, which is true. It's true. But am I going to vote for Biden? Hell yes. Am I going to work hard for Biden to get elected? Hell yes. Am I going to try to get as many people from all spectrums to vote for Biden? Hell yes. And then when he is in office, I expect all of us to fight like hell to let them know that it is the power of the people that's going to get effected, that's going to get codified. It is the power of the people, but you only have power if you have power. And that is what we have to learn. That is what, yes, it's great to be idealistic, and I am an ideologue to some extent. An ideologue good for humanity. But we got to win. We got to win first. And that's one thing Republicans have always understood. First comes winning. So you can have Tea Party. At the same time, you have Republicans who hate the Tea Party, go on stage and love on each other. We have to learn those kinds of things. And when we do, we will get a whole lot better at what we're doing. Anyhow, el nombre del programa hoy, the name of the program today is Hosts Irate with Republican National Convention, Confused Trump Voter, and Pandering. The pandering I don't have in my list, but I got to read a piece that I did on my website, not on my website, on my Facebook page, because it's something that just kind of hit me last night, and I went ahead on my writing thing, and I think I wrote probably, I don't know, 600, 700 word essay, because it was right there on my mind. But anyhow, here we go. Title of the post: Hosts irate with Republican National Convention, confused Trump voter, and pandering. The Republican National Convention alternate state of reality continued with over-increasing lies, misinformation, and dangerous indoctrinating narratives. And the dangerous indoctrinating narratives can actually be working to some extent. And I'll show you with a confused Republican later what I mean, and then how we turn that person around. So, the videos that I'm going to show you, Joanne Reed points out a sad thing about the RNC using people of color as props to stage immigration at a stage immigration ceremony. Former Senator Claire McCaskill finally attacked the president in a manner Democrats usually do not. And I love the way she did it. And coming from her, a centrist Democrat, wow, I was impressed. Craig Melvin did the right thing by pushing back on the false narrative Trump spots Scott Walker attempted to make. And a confused Trump voter does not know why she is voting for Trump. This is the reason why I continue to state that many voters are still gettable. Let's see, Bree says, how can he do things from the White House? It's against the law. Look, I'm going to explain that in a little bit. A clear example that our society cares more about property first and then humanity later. Let me tell you how they did it. First of all, the president and the vice president are exempted from the Hatch Amendment. Okay, that's numero uno. So they can do as they please, period. They can do as they please. But it turns out that there is a mechanism that's used by all politicians and their personal or media website to get it. And after I go through these little things here, we're going to talk about it. But let's go ahead and get busy. Let's talk to Mademoiselle Reed. Donald Trump was playing games in the White House today, but one of the most offensive things, as a naturalized citizen myself, from a country Donald Trump would probably also call the S-hole country, it was pathetic. And you know what? Joanne Reed said it best. I want you to listen to this and let's take it on the other side.
They have used the property of the American people, these sacred properties that are owned by the American people, for politics tonight in a way that I think is offensive, I think is wrong. Even worse, I think, was the naturalization ceremony that really stuck out to me tonight as the thing that is staying with me as I walk away from this. I mean, my mother did that ceremony. You know, when my mother came from Guyana, she was here for about 16 years before she became a naturalized American citizen. And that ceremony has such deep meaning for the people who become Americans. Donald Trump made that ceremony about him. He made that ceremony about celebrating Donald Trump. He did that ceremony inside of the White House when, as Jacob Soboroff reported tonight, other people who want to become citizens are being denied access to that ceremony. He's denying access to that ceremony to all of these other people, and he did one specifically for politics, specifically for his reelection. He used those people as props. He used people that would be from the S-hole countries he would not let into this country. People who look like those people, who have the religions perhaps of those people, people that are brown like those people, are barred from getting into the United States. They're not allowed to come in because they're not from Norway. But Donald Trump used a color collection, a sort of crayon box of colors tonight to try to paint a false image of himself as welcoming to immigrants and welcoming to black people and brown people. It was offensive to see that done in the People's House. That the naturalization ceremony is a sacred thing to a new American. It is not about Donald Trump, and he made it about Donald Trump, and he used the People's House to sort of, you know, play politics with it. That's not a Barbie's dream house. That's the American people's house.
Process of actually doing that, what he has done as well is, think about this. People from those S-hole countries, as he would say, that got their citizenship, the one from each one of those countries, almost pitted against those others that are saying, why not me? But not only that, but what did you do to actually get that? Did you sell your soul? Joanne Reed's discontent is well-deserved, and I can tell you, personally, it is a travesty. Yes, it is a travesty. Sorry about that. I forgot that one was pre-processed already, and I threw it up there in the window, so there were her at a much reduced size, and I wanted to get that in. So forgive me about that. But anyhow, so what Joyanne Reed hits the nail on the head. But I tell you, I tell you better than that. Claire McCaskill did something that I think more Democrats need to do in a more concise manner. Because, you know, what Michelle Obama always said, oh, well, you go high, we go, I mean, you go low, we go high. I'll be frank with you. I understand what she means. I know what she wants. But there are times that Americans themselves don't really get that. Now, on Joanne Reed, on her thing, that was a more personal thing, right? Those of us who are naturalized citizens, when we become a naturalized citizens, you're moving into a new country. You're saying you're pledging your allegiance to that new country. That is something that is, you know, for all practical purposes, sacred. You know, you're coming into a new country, and for somebody to use it as a prop, it's ridiculous. I remember my ceremony. We had a whole bunch of people at the University of Houston, and it was a great ceremony. But anyhow, Claire McCaskill goes out there and says the following. Let's listen to her. I love what she did, and I'm generally a little bit hesitant with her. Check this out.
I have to take a deep breath here because I'm hopping mad. I'm just furious. I am furious at this little small man trashing the people's house with his narcissism and his ego, using those people that were becoming American citizens as props. And by the way, he's the most anti-immigrant president in the history of our country. I hope journalists are busy right now, because I guarantee you there's somebody in that group that would not be allowed in this country under this president's policies. You know, it is just infuriating that he has blown up the Hatch Act like this, and that all these people think these rules don't apply to them. Who do they think they are? It is just infuriating. And by the way, Melania Trump, let me give her credit. She at least said for the first time anybody in this White House has ever said how badly she feels for the families who have lost a loved one to COVID. But let's be real about whether or not she's really going to help him with women in the suburbs. They know what the deal is here. They've all defended husbands publicly. This is a woman whose husband had to pay court costs this week because he paid off a porn star because he was having sex behind her back with a porn star right after she gave birth to their son. Give me a break. I am done with this guy. Oh, sorry.
I mean, that was almost heartfelt. And not only that, she brought up the porn incident. She brought up that he's paying off the porn star, and we all know that he used illegal money to pay off the porn star, another porn star. So let's be clear here. A lot of Democrats don't hit that hard by pointing out right after Melania had her speech that everybody's going with all the I mean, it's always seems like the mainstream media attempts to find the best thing they can find that a conservative does to really then highlight it as it being great. You know, they were all talking about how great Melania's speech was and all of that. And I love the context that McCaskill just gave, because what McCaskill just did there is, in as much as you had that speech, she also diminished it appropriately. And how did she do so? She made it clear, like, come on now. Do you think Melania is going to go out there and say that when this man has embarrassed her with a prostitute and paying off the prostitute and all these kinds of things? You know? But I tell you what really gets me about Melania in general, in the aggregate, is that how seriously they want to take Melania when they haven't taken Michelle Obama and even Dr. Jill Biden as seriously as they should. And it kind of makes me irate, if you will, just like these people are irate. You know, I mean, last night it brought me to write something, and, you know, some people complain, but I stand by it. I said, this is what a fake presidential re-election campaign looks like. We are living through his incompetence in their election. Number one, Melania walks out to do an adoring adulation and adulation and ovation for doing what again? What again? Then Jill Biden taught even as she did the second lady's duty. Hell, Dr. Biden is a teacher, the profession I most respect. What did Melania do again to make our society better? Nothing of consequence. America is yet to be a meritocracy. My fellow Americans, forget bread and circus, and let's judge real merit and not one that was made up. You know, if this was anybody else, think about this. This is a woman, and by the way, I have no hang-ups at all. But I'm just talking about how the right would have talked about Obama and his wife, Michelle. If Michelle had posed nude, if Michelle had done all these things, if Michelle took a lot of pictures with her clothes off, if Michelle came into the country on one particular visa and worked illegally, if Michelle came here and got and was a chain immigrant, in other words, she comes in and then she brings a whole bunch of other foreigners into our country to get citizenships. All these things Trump is against. All these things the right's against. All these things is representative right now in the White House. And you don't hear peep for all these people that are saying it is like crickets, nothing. But these are the things that we have to put out there, not to diminish Melania or anything of that nature, but to point out the hypocrisy of what's going on altogether. And in doing so, we can then start to have the discussion on a level playing field. And, you know, I talk a whole lot about that in the book that I have there. But anyhow, so she gave that pushback. But, you know, it's not only her that's giving the pushback, you know. You know, I watch news right through CNN, sometimes even Fox News. I'll give you a clip from Fox News that actually is newsworthy or that is fun-worthy, whichever one comes first. But anyhow, it turns out that Craig Melvin from MSNBC had Scott Walker on, another spokes for Donald Trump. And it was great to see how he pushed back and he interrupted and he pushed back that I said, this one, my brothers and sisters of politics done right, I've got to see this one. So check this one out with Craig Melvin. Where is Craig Melvin? Where are you? I think this one is Craig Melvin. So if I'm wrong, I'll just shut it up real quick. That one.
What about the part where Pompeo gave the speech on foreign soil? What about that part? Are we concerned at all about that?
Again, one of those people have to sort out. I'm not a lawyer, so I'll leave that up to lawyers in terms of what legalities are. I think in the end, though, the bottom line is Republicans the last two nights have shown really a largely optimistic message. Not just last night, you heard from Tim Scott and Nikki Haley.
The first night was optimistic in tone? Not last night, the first night.
Tim Scott and Nikki Haley gave two of the greatest speeches I've heard. Are there contrasts? No doubt about it. But I saw the Democrat convention last week. They weren't just down on Trump. They were down on America by and large. I'll give you credit. Kamala Harris and I think Joe Biden both gave pretty decent speeches. But the contrast thus far is they've laid out a message. They laid out a plan. They laid out specifics for the next 4 years. And I think the American people want that. You know, Washington is filled with politicians. And Joe Biden's been a part of that establishment for nearly 50 years. But most don't get the job done. This president may not always talk or tweet the way I do, but in the end, he actually gets the job done. And I'll take a doer over a talker any day of the week.
With all due respect on getting the job done, there are nearly 180,000 Americans dead from a virus that the president called a hoax for the better part of the spring. There is no national plan to combat the virus. You've got a slew of states that are opening schools under this sort of patchwork of an umbrella. How can you say in good faith?
I'll answer that, Craig.
Go ahead.
I'll answer your question, Craig. I'll answer it. Back in March, remember, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx told the president and the vice president that if they didn't take action, if they didn't mitigate the situation, as many as 2.2 million people could die from the coronavirus. They took action. They actually flattened the curve. And while we certainly mourn with those who mourn in this country, the reality is
come up at the RNC convention. You and I both know it's barely come up. The 180,000 people who died, it's barely come up.
Hundreds of thousands of lives were saved because the president and the vice president and their task force took the action that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx talked about. So you heard that last night from the First Lady. Certainly, like I said,
She's
we
the
mourn
only
with
one
those
we
who
heard it from
mourn.
last night. Quite frankly, she's the only one who brought it up.
I think you're going to hear more about in the future. But if you look at the facts, you contrast that with what Joe Biden's own chief of staff, former chief of staff, said with H1N1. He said they messed that up. It was only a fortuity. That it wasn't one of the
Governor,
largest mass casualty events in American history. He actually,
to a virus that has killed 180,000 Americans. On no planet do you think that's a fair comparison?
I mean, it's amazing. I love the way he pushed back. You know, we've seen too often that when these guys go on to these shows, both MSNBC, CNN, any one of them, that they just let them be, that they just let them come in and give a narrative. Craig Melvin was in his skin, which I think it's important because he did it from a journalistic point of view. Now, I would have gotten a little bit more, you know what, but at least he did it in such a manner. He did it in such a manner that was, well, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyhow, let's see. Let me welcome a few more people in. Myra Bolar, welcome aboard. I think I saw somebody else that I hadn't mentioned yet. Let's see if I can find them. If I don't find them, oh, Dimitri OG, hermano mío, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenido. Let's see who else is here. Let's see. Okay, a lot of people not talking today. Yesterday we passed 100. Today we just have a few. Anyhow. Before I want to show you a voter. This is a Trump voter. I want you to listen to what she had to say. But before that, I want to give some context. A reporter at MSNBC, or I think NBC, I don't remember which one, went out and they spoke to some older folk. And they were asking them, why are they voting for, who are they voting for? And the interesting thing is one lady there, one of the older ladies says that the turn off for her is anybody who talks about this virus being a hoax or whatever is a turn off. So that would mean that it's immediately not a Trump voter. But there was another woman who voted for Obama. Then after she voted for Obama, she voted for Trump. It's an older woman. And what the reporter asked her is, can you tell me what Trump has promised you that has done for you that makes you want to vote for him again? I want you to listen to her because I want to make the counter narrative, but not only that, I want to tell you why it is important to talk to people like her. This is important, and it's probably not going to be immediately intuitive, but we'll talk about it. Check this out.
What are you planning to do with your vote in November? Do you know yet?
Of course. Trump. He's the only president I could ever relate to.
Is there anything you can sort of point to that he has said he'd do and that he's done that you're really happy with?
Not that I could think of. I'm just glad he's there. Like I said, I feel secure.
Okay, now I want you to think about how Trump works, right? She thinks she wants to vote for Trump because her conditioning is Republican, Republican, Republican. You can see that in her conditioning. Here's the reality. That's the same kind of conditioning that a lot of people like her had during the Obama days. But I stayed here in Kingwood, a very red area, and watched the conversion of Republicans like that. Simply said, but I can't take it anymore. I am giving it to Obama. And I could actually, their kids who brought home Obama's book and brought home all of that were in their skin. Man, this guy is pretty cool. This guy is going to do X, Y, and Z. And by the way, I'm a college student, Ma. This guy is going to help what we are all about. And by the way, he did help the college kids by using the Affordable Care Act to stick the college fund stuff in to get some of the bankers out for federal loans, which opened up a ton more money for them and reduced the interest rates for a whole lot of people. So he did fulfill that promise. But the deal is, you know, a lot of these Republicans are gettable, right? But here's the thing, and why is this particular one so gettable? The person just sat down nicely, and she's a nice woman. She wasn't violent. She just said, I can only vote for Trump because Trump gives her that feeling. Trump's give her that feeling as this older woman, I am going to protect you. I am going to protect you. And he's constantly putting that message out there. People laugh, including myself, but I laugh not because I don't think it'll work. I laugh because it's like, oh my God, he's doing something that worked against Dukakis by using that black guy that all white Americans feared. Dukakis let black people out of jails that are criminals, and they're gonna come and get you. And it turned out that Dukakis went from a big lead to a big dump, to a loss, a big loss, okay? It works because fear works, right? So you have to have that counter narrative. So when I say you have to talk to all these people, right now the only people talking to them is Fox News and Trump. Fox News and Trump's talking to them. So what are they hearing? They're hearing like, oh my God, the city is exploding. And by the way, since if it bleeds, it leads on all TV, whether it's MSNBC or whether it is your local station, whatever the case, if it bleeds, it leads. And the picture they show you is they show you most of the times, in as much as right now they're showing a lot of white kids that are a part of the Black Lives Movement, that are in the movement trying to do well. If there's somebody to show you that's doing something offensive, that is doing something wrong, if they can show you a face of a POC, that is what they're going to do, which is what they generally do. Producers do that. That is why we say in the we need to have in producing, it needs to look like America as well, because people would make decisions. A lot of these producers, even here in Houston, you look at the crime in Houston looks like me. You go to the court system and you realize, oh, the crime is a little bit more spread out, eh? And that is because what makes it on TV and what does not. Here is the deal. So that's all she sees. All she sees is criminality, and he mixes a little bit of that. I like that, frontal lobe versus amygdala. Exactly. The amygdala is that fast reflex. Now, here's the deal. When she watches TV, she gets scared. Why does she get scared? Because what TV is showing is a mob destroying Portland, destroying Seattle, destroying all these other places. I brought you guys shows where I have shown that the protest in Portland is one block on a park. They stage in the park, and every night they go out in that block and they protest. And that war between the police and the stuff is kind of exacerbated when you really challenge them in that sort of. We show that it's one block. Portland is a huge city. One block, you have issues. Same thing, you can go to a lot of Houston. We had a whole street, that kind of stuff. But nobody is going to see these protests in these neighborhoods, right? Because you go to the protest through the sources of power. That is what protest is all about. Now, Trump is not going to tell his people that. He's going to just show you fire burning and all these things being thrown. That's what you're going to see. And then they expect people to say, oh my God, that's going to happen to me. Well, you need a lot of shows like ours that we can put. We need to have videos made as well that says, this is happening on 1 square block on Portland. Look how beautiful Portland is. This is happening in 5 square blocks in Seattle. Look how beautiful Seattle is. Wouldn't it be more beautiful if everybody felt the beauty that is this city? And that's what these people are fighting for. You have to have the counter narrative. You have to have the counter narrative without giving up your values. And that is what we're doing. If I had more time, if I had more help, I would start also creating those videos. But it's hard. It's hard for me to get public domain videos hooked up with a whole lot of narrative to go out there and make that true narrative that makes more sense than what even MSNBCs and all these other people are portraying. I think it is irresponsible of these people to go ahead and promote just the riots and making it seem, when they talk about riots in Portland, people have the feeling that the whole Portland is burning. Riots in Chicago, the whole of Chicago is burning. It is so false. It is so disingenuous. And it then gives Trump the platform he needs to make his case. And then you have this silly video going around where you have one set of Black Lives Matter, a white group of Black Lives Matter students out there in a restaurant almost forcing a white diner to lift their hands up saying they support the Black Lives Matter movement. That's wrong. You can't do things like that. Put it on video. And it is like red meat for Donald Trump, because it is like, you see, these guys are coming for you next, which actually it looks like, right? Because you can legislate certain things. You legislate laws that have to be followed. You don't change hearts with legislation. You enforce good law with legislation, and you work. Changing hearts sometimes after comes when people are forced to behave a certain way to protect others. In other words, I'm sorry, it is sad. I can't force you to love me. I can't force you to like me. I can't force any of that. However, in the long run, you may, when you get past seeing what I look like to you, because other people have negative feelings as far as how you or anybody else looks. But when you get past that, you may start saying, man, those attributes of yours, that is something that I like. Wow. And that is where we have to get as a society. I explain a whole lot of that in my book, as well as It's Worth It. Check it out. I'm going to put the link in there one more time. Yes, I am promoting my book because I want people to read it and execute what's in that book, because that is how we are going to win. That is how we're going to win. Now, so I showed you that video. Now they got somebody arrested for shooting and killing 2 people in where's the place? In Canigo, whatever that city is where Blake got shot. We don't know who the person is. We don't know what the person looks like. But I have a hunch that the person is a militia guy who actually came with a long gun that caused that thing. All right. And I got a email from one of our listeners who sent me a page, and I should have saved off the page. I can't find it right now. That points out that particular, that on Facebook, Kenosha, thank you, Rodney, Kenosha, that person who used that long gun in Kenosha was likely a militia person. And the thing about it is, there are a lot of Facebook messages telling militia people to go out there with their guns. But then they said, stop just going out there with a gun. Use it. I'm trying to find the thing that I was sent with all the Facebook messages. I can't find it right now. Kathy, I think Kathy Courtney sent it to me. Kathy, if you're around, if you're listening, Kathy, throw me that link again, because I wanted to index it and I forgot to index it. My bad. That I'd like to show the audience that a lot of the violence that is occurring in these rallies, the right-wing folks are putting in their Facebook messages, hey, go out there and do this. Go out there and do this. And so everything is not what it seems. It's quite an interesting thing that's going out there. Let's see. I'm looking for, I think I may have found it. Let's see if that's it. Because if I found it, yes, I found it. Thank you. I found it. Here it is, folks. Take a look at this. For those of you that are on that just listen to this on podcast, I'm going to try to read some of the messages for you. If that's getting smaller. I need to get it big. Anyhow, take a look at what I'm showing there, folks. It says, one of the messages say, when the shooting starts, make sure that somebody is sending a live feed of the mother, you know what, going down. The whole nation need to see what these a-holes liberals have caused. Okay? And then they said, warning, shots will get these punks listening. Warning shots will get these punks listening. What's the point in standing around with a gun when things keep getting torched and broken into? Show some force or stay home. These are messages on the right-wing thread, okay? Another message, no one a Persian Piggly Wiggly either except planet. You know, they're telling people where to go and create hell, all right? So whatever you're seeing on TV, watch the TV knowing that there's a backstory as well. It is not all that it seems. They would like to give you the idea that the law and order messages that, all those protesters are just destroying things. We have a whole lot of instigators in there who are actually doing harm, like the person who went around in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, breaking up all the windows, all in black hood. They did arrest him, as I recall, and it was one of those militia guys. So let's understand what the right wing is trying. The right wing have for a long time, if you take a look at QAnon, not only QAnon, but if you take a look at M42, or I think it's the name of it, you see that these guys are constantly trying to get some stuff instigated. Of course, we won't allow that to occur. We are better than that. Anyhow, I wanted to show you guys that thing because I thought it was, I thought I shared the screen. Let me go ahead and share the screen. I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. That is the screen right there, folks. And let me see if I can get it a little bigger, see if I get it a little bigger. But I did read the stuff to you guys. So there is a screen. If somebody wants to go ahead and take a screenshot. Okay, so now that you've seen that, that's what I'm talking about. We have to stay together. We got to make sure and do all this stuff right. Before I have a couple more things I want to show you before I go to the messages. This one is a short one. A Democrat and a Republican, not Spock's, but one of these guys that operatives. They had some poignant messages, actually some important messages that I think everybody here needs to take a look at. So I'm going to play that, and then we'll move on to the next item.
Isn't that a living, breathing example of the frog boiling experiment we are living day in and day out in this country? I mean, another way to ask it is, who do we see about this? Who will right-size the country and normalize us to the quaint days of, say, 4 years ago?
160 million people may come out and vote in this election, and they're going to have the say-so. And, you know, we're all outraged, and people can't, don't know what to think about this, but the voters are getting ready to weigh in. And I suspect they're going to weigh in rather decisively here. But this is going to be an enormous turnout election, and people are going to vote, and they're going to make a decision here. We'll see which way it goes, but I'm optimistic it'll go a good way.
Mike, do you agree with your friend from Louisiana?
Yeah, the biggest political party in America right now is the Fire Donald Trump party. You know, the great thing about democracy is you can get a million of these horrible transgressions, but the voters have the biggest sledgehammer ever made, and they can crack it down hard. I would tell my Democratic friends, though, is, I'm in Republican Voters Against Trump, so I'm renting, not buying on Election Day, being for Biden. But careful about these process issues. As much as they make folks who work in the system and respect it, like me and James, furious, on the kitchen tables of America, it's Trump screwed up COVID, and he ruined the economy. And if you'd ever like to have a job again and not be broke, you got to fire him. Let's keep it on the real issues, because I love Democrats some of the time, but they tend to want to give the speeding tickets and wait a minute, you cheated on page 11 of the regulations. Get it to the meat and potatoes economy and Trump incompetence to fire him, and then you can clean up this big mess this guy's created against our institutions.
Now, that is very important what he just said there. We have to, and he's right. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, on page 8, we were supposed to do X, Y, Z. You didn't do that. So, and we get into all these little micro issues when the other side looks at the big picture, and the big picture generally wins, right? The big picture, I'm sorry, that's just how people are. So, I think that's an important message for us to take on. I'm coming to answer these issues right now, but before I get there, there's one last thing, and this goes through what I want all of us to understand that we are fighting against, and it's the real fight that nobody sees. It's the real fight that nobody sees, and in this message, you're going to say, how the hell did you get that out of that? Because I'm going to explain it after I play it, but check this out.
What I want to talk to you about, though, today is what's going on. There are a lot of very good people in this community, and what is happening to them is wrong. People have differences of opinion. We have different concepts of how things should be done. Those are all fine, but violence in the community is not acceptable. Violence to property, violence to people, absolutely unacceptable. And it is up to us to make sure that that does not continue.
Why did I play that? That looked innocuous. That doesn't look like it's nothing controversial there. I watched a lot of that press conference as well. First of all, in that press conference, little was said about Blake being shot by cops 7 times in his back and how inhumane that was. Little was said about the killer who went into the crowd with a long gun and first shot the person who was trying to take that long gun, push that long gun away, and then kill 2 people. Little was said about that. All was spoken about was what they call rioting, okay? Protesting, I call it, protesting. Some of it got out of hand for several other reasons and I was not there. I'm not going to go ahead and put what I believe in there. But here's the deal. When he spoke about we have to stop violence against property and violence against people. Usually when you're talking, not every time, but usually when you're talking, you're always talking about people first, harm to people, people getting hurt, people getting sick, people, humanity, humanity, humanity. His first words were, property, violence against property. And that is the problem in America. We only react when property is being damaged or people who own property are being maligned or their capital is placed at risk. We can gun down people all through the country and we just say protest nicely and no big deal. But you start hurting property and everybody wakes up. I mean the system, the capitalist system wakes up. Oh, you can't do anything with property. And if you look at the genesis of all of that, read our Constitution. Our Constitution talk a lot about that. Read it. A friend of mine once told me, Egberto, this American duty with me at Move to Amend, when I was on the board of directors of Move to Amend. And he said, Egberto, remember, the Constitution is a property rights document. I'm like, oh, no, it talks about freedom. So, Egberto, it's a property rights document. Read it. To which I ask you, read the Constitution. It's a property rights document. And we have learned to put property above humanity. We'll use lip service and say, you can replace property. You can't replace a human being. But still yet we talk about when we have risks on corporations, we decide how many people we are willing to allow to die to produce certain chemicals, to throw certain things in the air, to have the reliability of airplanes, etc., 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 which all can be much better. But we do a cost analysis against what a person will earn over a lifetime and amortize it and say, well, we can afford to have X amount of debts within our economic system to do this. And that is what's wrong with much of the system. And believe it or not, it percolates all the way down to our entire system. And when we really become a humane society who really puts human beings and people first, things like police brutality, things like murderous policemen, all these things have a tendency then to go away. You know why? Because even the racism that we have in this country has a capital component. If it didn't have a capital component, there wouldn't be slavery, there wouldn't be gradation of people based on some identifiable thing we could separate folks by to create gradations of power in order to maintain. And I'm going to read this and I'm going to read it fast. It's something that I wrote on Facebook last night while I was going through this thought process. And then I promise you I'm going to come and answer some questions or read through the statements. But I really want to get to this. Here we go. I'm looking for it right now, but it's an important piece that I think that makes some sense. And here it goes. Both parties pander to black people among other identities they try to capture. But every pander isn't the same. The current Republican orthodoxy enforces the stereotypes that black people and culture, whatever myriad of cultures they represent, are defective. Black people who strive to fulfill some code become acceptable. Black people who bow and live up to the master's expectation are thankful for their freedom and feel a profound level of indebtedness for an opportunity that should have been inalienable in the first place or acceptable. That is why they love Senator Tim Scott, who proudly accepts the tenet from cotton to Congress, as if the cotton part was not the fault of the master, and as such, it was the chain holding him back from Congress for centuries. The mental remnants of those chains to this day hold back many, generation after generation. And of course, the custodian, an ex-convict, and a purchased Democratic politician further cauterizes all the remaining stereotypes. Those are the people the Republican Party used at their convention to highlight as those good black people. Democrats pander as well. Unfortunately, they pander from a position of guilt. They share all the same prejudices but do not attempt to justify them, but atone for them. Even if on the individual level the prejudices persist, they at least attempt with policy and platform to make a difference. This stuff is not difficult. Everyone simply needs to intentionally adjust their brains in every case to the reality that we are all humans. When one accepts that reality long enough in the brain, it will extend to the heart. The reason police disproportionately kill people of color is that their first impulse, as the impulse of more people than you would imagine, is that people of color are less than. It was a learned behavior by all. Again, just a learned behavior. Lastly, no one wants platitudes. Our racial system was designed to gradate importance, work, worth, and power. Each level was designed to do what is necessary to hold their position. That is how a small minority could maintain total economic power. If you are concerned about those others taking your position, your grade, you protect it at all costs. The master just stays on top, watches and pulls the string like a puppeteer. When we really break the chains, and these chains are not racial, these chains are not racial. But when we break those chains, we will grow the will to right what was wrong and repay all that was stolen by the few. And when we get to that thought process, when we get there, that is when we would have really been free. And I'm not talking about the freedom a lot of folks talking about. I'm talking about the free all of us. Really, really, really being free. Folks, welcome aboard. Bridge MCP, Rose. Ray Rose, welcome aboard. Rose, how are you doing? Let's see who else is here. Mike Cisak, so you made it. I wonder what you had to say, Mike. All right, and let's see who else is here. Okay, let me just go from the top. Hurricane Laura is expected to be an extremely powerful Category 4 hurricane. Yeah, we start getting a few bands here in Houston. I just heard a couple of thunder boomers. Egberto, after the show, please give this a watch. Okay, I'll give it a watch, sir. You usually have some damn good stuff. Mato had a whole statement of how hard it was to fact check. Yes, because there's so much to fact check. There is so much to fact check. Egberto, I'd say 30% of conservatives are too far gone. You can thank Trump and the right-wing bubble for that. Yeah, many of them are too far gone, right? But here's what you've just told me, Michael. The right wing made too many of them really far gone. That means there's somebody out there who has the patience to bring some of them back. I'll tell you, I have the patience to do that because we must. Let's see. Dimitri says, Egberto, I like your persistence. Muchas gracias, hermano mío. Let's see. That's a conversation between Michael and Bridge. Let's see what else I have here. For example, COVID. We're number one in the cases. Oh, yeah, we messed up, all right. Yeah, Myra Bolar say, by getting the job done, you mean golfing while the economy continued on the same trend it was under during President Obama's time. Myra Bolar gets the message of the day. And you know why you got the message of the day? Because you encapsulated the whole thing. He coasted on the economy, and because he did nothing else, as something came as a clip for the economy, that's what happened. Myra, the message of the day. Okay, let's see who else is here. Para ver. Mike Cisak, it's hilarious, Bleach, because you don't seem to know that HCQ plus zinc works on coronavirus. I tell you what, Mike, I don't want you to get coronavirus, but if you get it, why don't you just take HCQ and zinc? Let us know your results. I'm done with trying to tell those who want to take the drugs that are going to make Trump rich to go ahead and take it. Go take it. Follow your master. Take it. If you get sick, take the drug. And then also do one thing for me, because my wife has lupus. She is on HCQ. She's on hydrochloroquine, okay? She is. She's very well monitored, her eyes and a whole lot of different things, so they can adjust the dosages appropriately, because, again, there are a lot of side issues with that particular drug for other things. What you don't know is you don't know what damage the virus has already done to different organs that make that particular drug dangerous for organs that have been damaged by the virus. But you go ahead without a study. You go ahead and just take it, brother. Please do. Take it. You want to be Trump's guinea pig as you give him all the money? Please do. All right, let's go ahead and continue. CSAC, what else? Helen, a former Democrat from Pennsylvania, calling a C-SPAN tonight. Helen, who do you want to vote for in 2016? I didn't want... most definitely, I don't know. You're not making any sense there, but that's okay. Let me go back down a little bit more. I have about one more minute to talk about this here. Breach, politics and right. Okay, I'll take a look at it, Breach. Yeah, I'll take a look at that, Breach. Let's see. CSAC, law and order. Okay. I've got to close this out now because I got to do my 2-minute pitch at this moment. Okay, look. Thank you guys for commenting. I read your comments. Sometimes I don't get a chance to answer because I get a whole ton of them, not only here, but on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, please feel free to go ahead and hit that $sign and give us a super chat, which helps with what we do here. We actually, it's not cheap to do this at all. Anyhow, I want to ask those of you who have the wherewithal to please become, I want to ask you so kindly to please become subscribers to our program. To become a subscriber to our program, go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/PATREON. politicsdoneright.com/PATREON. You can also support us at our PayPal. Go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. You can support us on Facebook by going to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. You can purchase stuff at our store. All of this go towards supporting this program, making us better, and giving us a wherewithal. Like I said, when I reach 1,000 subscribers on Patreon, I'll be able to get some more support for doing these kinds of videos that I'm talking about. I wish I were there now because there's a whole lot of videos we need to do to make context and to flood the internet with. Right now we flood the internet with a lot of stuff, a lot of essays, a lot of video, etc. But we need to do a lot more for search engines to take up to get our point of view. That is a lot of work. 16 hours a day, 7 days a week is what I do. Because we have to flood the internet, we need to get more people to do this because they have paid people in Russia in forms doing this kind of stuff. And somehow we don't see a lot of times the virtue in doing this. Welcome aboard, George McCracken. Welcome aboard, George McCracken. You can buy, not the ebook. You can actually, if you don't find a bookstore that will order it for you, you can always go to politicsdoneright.com/store and buy it there and I'll ship it to you. Let's see. You can always you can at our store. You also get things like our cup that I'm showing on the screen and our book. This book that you have on the screen. It's worth it. As I see it, Class Warfare, and my weight loss book for me for giving you my story as far as how I lost it. But yeah, you can go ahead, George, and go directly to our website, politicsdoneright.com/store, and purchase the book right there, and we'll ship it. We have a shipment coming in. The hurricane is today and tonight. That book, I think they said will be here on the 31st. I can ship it out for you then. That's when I get my next shipment. I'm completely out. Of course, Amazon is never out. But I'll go ahead and ship that when the next shipment come in, which is on the 31st, which is what, 3 days from now, 4 days from now, 5 days from now, 4 days from now. Anyhow, look, everybody, thank you so kindly for spending this time with me. I could not do this without you. Thank you for sharing. Even after the show, you have the ability to share. Please do so, because we need to have as many people doing this as possible. As many people doing it. Last message, Bridge says, Rose Williams came here in the 60s. My father, well, all over the news, founder of the Northern Aid Society. Jerry Adams was engaged to my, oh, whoa, really? You have history, my dear. Anyhow, folks, thank you so kindly for being here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.